Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, presented by the Fantasy Football World Championship, home to the industry's most accurate rankings.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast. I am your host, Adam Krautwurst, and with me, as always, in this team preview series is Mr. Full-Time Fantasy himself, Jody Smith, and Mr. Shawn Childs, at Shawn__ Childs, the man behind the numbers, behind these podcasts. Shawn, what is going on tonight, sir?
I'm kind of confused. Your hat's on the right way, and when it's on backwards, it's a little, not on straight. But you look like you're on the straight and narrow this year. What's going on this week? What's going on there?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm versatile. I can go 0 RB, hero RB. I can go frontwards, backwards, whatever you guys need. All right, I got you. Okay.
All right.
Jody, what are you doing tonight? Hat on straight too, hanging out with us.
Oh yeah, make sure you get the curved brim because I can't stand the whole straight brim hat. Like that. I've had some arguments with people on Twitter about that. I can't roll that way. But we are like less than 24 hours away from preseason football. So it's great.
I gotta admit, I forgot about that. But here, I'm super excited about that. Another thing I'm super excited about is this Sunday night on the grind time, 9 p.m. Me and Jack Colchine will be doing live streaming the first main event of the FFWC season.
Main event season.
That's right. Live streaming it. Jack and I will be co-owning the team together, giving out all of our information during that. So that'll be the first time that's ever been done for the FFWC's live streaming the main event. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm stoked for that. So everybody tune in for that show. That'll be good. But yeah, listen, let's jump into tonight's show. NFC North. A couple of ballers in this division here. We'll start with the Bears. So Shawn, early outlook on the Bears. Justin Fields, you have him closer to QB 10 than his current QB 7 ADP. You were lower than consensus on Mr. Fields. Well, why is that?
It's I went and reviewed it after you sent the message, and I have him projected for 90% of the snaps, missing. Realistically, the top quarterback's 96, 97%. So I have him missing a game. He missed 5 games in a rookie season, 2 last year. So I gave him 1 miss, and that takes out probably 18, 20 points. If he wasn't, he'd probably be QB 8 or 9. I guess the concern for his passing, I'm pretty bullish on him throwing the ball more. Last year, they threw the ball 377 times. I gave the team his outlook 507. So I like the upgrades there. So, for him to get further and produce more, obviously he's got to throw more touchdown passes, and he's also got to increase his yards per pass attempt. I think it was 6.9, 7.1. I have him at 7.1, and that's kind of comes up for whatever his receivers have been, but he can be more explosive in that area. And the second thing is he's got to get his completion rate. I think he was 58.9 and 60.4, and I have him at 62% because I think see a progression there. So those couple of metrics are kind of key for him pushing forward, but I definitely think he could improve, and he has the capability of having some impact games. So I definitely am interested in where he goes in the best ball formats. The other one, we'll see how I approach that, but.
Yeah, Jody, what do you think about Fields this year? I know, drafting him, it's hard to project him, and he's done so well rushing the ball. He wasn't even that. I don't want to say he wasn't that athletic. He didn't run. He's running more in the NFL than he did in college. I feel like he's doing more of that. He's proven he has more athleticism than maybe we thought he had. I kind of like this offense as like, and even Justin Fields is like an Eagles light in a sense where they're building around their athletic quarterback like they did Jalen Hurts. They bring in DJ Moore. They're kind of investing in Fields to see what he has. Where are you on Fields?
I'm probably a little closer to, ECR on Fields. You have to understand in this second tier of quarterbacks, he probably has. It depends on if you have Lamar Jackson in this tier or not, because Lamar Jackson has the most upside. But other than Jackson, Fields has the most upside, and we saw that last year simply based on the fact that he ran for 1,143 yards. And this is after, he missed time last year. He still rushed for that many yards. You put him in with running backs last year. He ran for more yards than Christian McCaffrey. He would have been 7th in the league if he was a running back, running the ball, which is incredible. That said, easily the worst passer in the NFL per Pro Football Focus grades. He only topped 210 passing yards one time all season. And in that game that he had 250 yards, he had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So, you get some ups and you get some downs for him. Overall, what you had last year in Fields was the QB 6 and fantasy points per game, which is about where his, ECR is at this point in the draft. It just depends on your style. Or your, like I said, with the upside there, the highs and the lows, probably a better best ball quarterback than maybe somebody you want to rely on every week, because as we saw last year, there were some pretty big lows. And if he is hobbled, would say something like a hamstring or something like that kind of corrals that running and makes him be a traditional pocket passer, that's potential trouble. So overall, you want to have, I think, some exposure to Justin Fields just because of the the rushing ability and that upside. But I think the fairest thing to do is to kind of at this tier of quarterbacks is to kind of pick and choose different guys here and there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, has a massive rushing upside, and the big Justin Fields, people who love him will be like, well, you can't disagree with his passing numbers from last year, but if they go up, he could finish even higher. They add DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney back and healthy and in a proper wide receiver 2 role, not the wide receiver 1 role they had for him last year. A full offseason with Chase Claypool. So we'll see about that. But Fields will be interesting and an exciting player nonetheless. Shawn, you also, the Chicago backfield is an absolute mess, but you are one of the few analysts that I've seen that's projected Deontay Foreman to lead that committee, and kind of a breakdown for Khalil Herbert. Tell me how you kind of came to that conclusion.
Based on him being a Herbert's kind of seemed like the quicker guy, change of pace guy. He really doesn't have a ton of upside in his pass catching so far in his career, so he was kind of limited that way. And I think Foreman last year really kind of showed when he's given a chance to carry the ball on early downs, he can have some impressive games. But if he struggles, they're going to give him the quick hook and change of pace. So I think the early down bulk of the action will go to Foreman or Johnson, and Johnson could emerge and even in pass him at some point during the season. But when you first do the projections, you got to take a stance in some situations, and that's the stance I took. The news hasn't been really, I think this week it said they were Herbert and Foreman were kind of splitting snaps with the first team, so kind of equal. And I think Johnson's got a slight injury. We don't know what it is, but I don't think it's anything major. So as that situation evolves over the next month, it'll change a little bit.
Yeah.
And the trick is, is there enough catches for Herbert to even push higher in the running back rankings?
Yeah, that backfield is a mess. It's kind of been even people who are like doing 0 RB and drafting running backs in that range. It's hard to, because you don't even know. One of the advantages to doing 0 RB is when you get into that range, you take, okay, I'm going to take Jaylen Warren because I know if Najee goes down, Warren's going to be great. In this range, you're taking you don't know who the starter is going to be. You don't even know who the backup is. It's kind of an ugly, but like you said, it's an evolving situation through the summer. If we get an injury to one running back, okay, now it narrows it down to 2. And if we can get some positive news on one running back or the other, we'll see about that. It's kind of a backfield I've kind of been avoiding, or I'll take the cheapest piece in like a 0 hero RB build. But that's kind of how I've been attacking that. But onto the receivers, the Bears, we talked about Fields earlier. They add a new wide receiver, one to this team. And it's a thing that teams have been doing recently. Hopkins has now done it twice with two separate teams. You think Stephon Diggs, you think AJ Brown, like all these receivers being traded around the league. And with their first years, they've been able to do positive things with their teams. What do you got projected for DJ Moore there in Chicago?
I have more projected for 68 catches, 932 yards, 6 touchdowns. And when I did my outlook, before I do the projections, I figured he'd be more of the big play guy. And I was thinking 70, 1,050, and probably similar touchdowns because Moore hasn't scored a ton of touchdowns in his career in a season. But he showed that he can work the short areas of the field at times. And he's also been a big play guy. So I think in the Bears offense, he's going to be given that opportunity to make a bigger plays. I think I'm at 13.7 yards per catch, and he could actually beat that. And that's probably on the low end of his career thing, path anyway. So he's an interesting best ball guy. I don't know if he's considered a solid wide receiver 2 in the season long, but where he goes, where does he rank as far as in the season long as wide receiver? Is he 23rd off the board? I don't know that.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
The latest update I saw at Fantasy Pros, he actually dropped from 20, which was way too high, to he's still 22, but to me that's still too high. But he's being drafted in that area.
Yeah. Yes. What's your thought on him, Jody? I know he's a guy that I like. Again, forgetting rankings and projections, a guy that, like, if I'm going to get a nice receiver stack, you can usually double tap DJ Moore and Fields on the turn and get your nice stack, and then you can get Mooney later on. What's your thought on DJ Moore?
Love him as a talent, but at that price tag, at wide receiver 22 range, that's according to Fantasy Pros, I think it's going to continue to trend down. That's like way too high because of my projections. DJ Moore's around wide receiver 30. I've got him. Shawn was pretty dead set with the yards per catch. I got him at 13.5, but close to 28% target share, but you're talking a very low volume passing attack. The Bears were 32nd in the league in passing last season, had some issues with sacks that, you can blame a lot of that actually on, Fields and his running style and whatnot. But I mean, like I said, I really like Moore as a, an NFL talent. You're talking 48.7% air yard share last season. He actually led the NFL for his team, and he very well could do that again in this offense. But it's like, somebody in fantasy the other day said, do you want, a 15% target share from an offense like the Chargers or the Vikings, or, a 30% target share on a low volume passing attack like Chicago? So, they kind of, end up being kind of the same. So, I mean, yeah, until DJ Moore starts getting closer to the late 20s or early 30s, where I think he's actually destined to finish this season, then I'm going to end up being out on him, and that's kind of unfortunate because as all of us have kind of started embracing dynasty, he's a guy that I have rostered a lot, and even in this season, just because sometimes you just bet on talent over situation. So if the Bears can progress up to say 25th or so in passing, then Moore can pay off the 20s range.
Yeah, I'm with you in the bet on talent thing. I think that DJ Moore is a guy that you kind of just gotta kind of close your eyes and bet on the talent. I mean, I think, listen, the Bears just extended Cole Kmet. They trade for DJ Moore. They get Darnell Mooney back. They're improving. Like, I could see a leap. If Justin Fields improves, I could see a kind of a leap that no one's really expecting. I know their pass rate was super low last year, but again, they're not a very good team, so they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw. I could see DJ Moore, and DJ Moore is a big, like, get open when the play breaks down kind of receiver too. So I can see Fields buying time. I think the yards per catch might be a little low, but again, I think it's, if you don't have to use your imagination that much to see the type of season, the type of upside DJ Moore could have. Talk to me, Shawn, about Darnell Mooney. Was obviously hurt last year for a lot of the season. Talk to me. You got him for only 4 less catches than DJ Moore, 64 catches for 772 yards and 4 touchdowns. Any chance there's a breakout season there for Mooney, or not enough passing in this offense?
Yeah, he's going to have a step back. I mean, 2 years ago, he did have, 140 targets, I believe, that year, and he had a lot of games with 5 catches. So touchdowns weren't really there, but, that just shows, when you're talking about DJ Moore, that, Moore's probably a better player with a higher ceiling than Mooney. So, he can potentially have that kind of role, and he did that under, Field. So But I think that he'll work as the number 2. He'll have some games. He'll get more catches. I think that overall the passing will be better, much better than last year in the chances. But Mooney will be more of a flash guy, probably a 5th wide receiver, probably that extra stack. I personally would rather have Kmet as this in front of him, but I've drafted, many teams in DraftKings and Underdog where I've had all 3 of them. And they kind of, if you time it right, you can do it. So you're just hoping that piece of the puzzle comes together, especially late in the season.
Yeah, I think it's a cheap, easy stack to get with some upside there if the offense continues to grow under Fields. But you mentioned Cole Kmet. He's a guy I haven't really drafted. I know, again, they re-signed him, but he's just a guy that hasn't quite popped yet. You've got him for 58 catches, 624 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's pretty good for what he's done so far in his career. Do you see finally Kmet taking that next step?
He showed the touchdowns last year, and realistically, when you look at the number of pass attempts that they had and what he had, if they, Jody doesn't expect much, but if he gets to 500 pass attempts, I mean, that's like it's probably a 30% increase in chances across the board there. So, I think he's a pretty good player developing. He was he really helped me last year in the daily game. I had him and Fields and Mooney that day I had the big day. So they were,
yep.
Especially in the daily games, it's a really exciting combination. You might get a bunch of duds, but they can come in the right matchup.
Jody, is this a follow the talent and follow the money type thing with Cole Kmet? Like, some people want to see it first, but what do you see out of Kmet?
He's been pretty consistent. He's been a pretty good fantasy tight end for a couple seasons now. I actually have him as my tight end 11. I think that's a spot or 2 higher than what you're seeing his ECR go. I have him. I think, Shawn, you said 58 catches. I have him at 57 for 611 yards. So our projections are saying I have him at 5.4 touchdowns. So, we're real close with what we're seeing with him overall. Going back to Darnell Mooney, I have him at, over 103 targets is what I have for Mooney. So he ends up being my wide receiver 50. So again, spot on with Shawn. That's a, pretty solid wide receiver 5. And I have the Bears overall 460 something pass attempts. So, a little bit below the 500 you just mentioned, Shawn, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We'll see if Kmet can make it into that next tier of tight ends here in the NFC North. But I like the Bears overall as an offense, a cheap offense that could, I think, surprise some people this year. So speaking of surprising some people, the Lions recently have surprised some people, and that's a team that we're gonna move on to now. Shawn, Jared Goff, kind of had a season way better than we thought he was going to have last year. Can he repeat last year's success, or is that a trap maybe?
I think he's kind of a better than a game manager, and Detroit's offense was pretty good last year. He really improved on, limiting the turnovers late in the year. I think he might have went the last 7 or 8 games with no turnovers, or maybe 1 interception and like 15 touchdowns. He was pretty impressive. He's played with the Rams and, been in the playoffs, and I think they made the Super Bowl one of those years. So, but he's, I think he's getting better. He's not really the guy that's going to be slinging. He's going to get no rushing yards. And I don't really think that he has the second and third receiver in place yet. Maybe the tight end could be a little bit better. And I think Gibbs is really going to step up and be the second receiving option. So that is helpful. But, there's going to be games they're going to run the ball really well, and he's going to be kind of dull, 200 yards, maybe gets 2 touchdowns or even 1 touchdown. So, he's going to be a hard manage. He's actually I liked him a little bit better last year because he was going later and I'm still in the best ball mode, unfortunately, not in this other season long. It'll be another week and a half before I get there. But, he was a good third quarterback last year in the best ball events. This year, I got him probably, 16, 17, 18 behind some of the others. And it's based on, Amon-Ra and his running back.
Yeah, he's going QB 14 right now in the Circa Fantasy Championships over at the FFWC. I completely agree with you. I mean, he should not be going ahead of Geno Smith. He's probably, I guess you make sense there with Cousins and Rodgers, but Wilson, I know we already talked about Russell Wilson. I know Jody's very high on Wilson. I think he has him as his QB 11, somewhere in there. But yeah, I just think that Goff would be a quarterback you would only take if you're is like your QB 2 and best ball if you're stacking him with like Amon-Ra or something like that. I mean, there'd really be no other reason to take him as QB 14 there. So I definitely agree with you on that. But so he's kind of a boring play there. But what's not boring is this Detroit backfield. I mean, completely revamping it, bringing in David Montgomery from their rival, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 15 of the NFL draft. I mean, I love this Lions offense this season. Jahmyr Gibbs is a big target for me. Talk to me. So this type of stuff interests me. You know, we talk about Alvin Kamara, his rookie year, only had like 35% of the rushing attempts and still finished as the overall RB3 because of all the targets and catches that he had. So I think with Goff being immobile, Gibbs could really do some damage in this passing game. You have him for 70 catches, 640 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's going to be a lot of his fantasy production, right? How did you kind of determine what you think Montgomery and Gibbs are going to do?
Well, yeah, I look at the last couple of years from the Lions. I mean, well, in 2020, they had 89 catches, 110 the next year, and 82 last year. So, and they definitely went backwards last year. You know, and that probably was partly because of Swift wasn't on the field that much, and they ran the ball with Williams. So, you know, but between them all, they had 25 rushing touchdowns, and they had, what did they have, about 2,700 yards. They were pretty active, and they ranked as a group, you know, high. So I think that you change the Gibbs, more explosive. They don't really, with Williams out for 6 games, they don't have somebody else. Gibbs is a natural guy to get all the catches. So, you know, I went back to probably based it more on, you know, 2021, you know, even in the ties to the Saints where they threw the running back more. So, you know, I think he's going to be a good drop off. And I think, you know, that some of the sports books and stuff, if they give out the catches for Gibbs, they're going to probably put him more in the range of where Swift did, maybe the 45 to 50. And I think there's an opportunity there to take the over. And obviously a player like that has to stay healthy, but you know, I'm bullish on him, and I know everybody likes him, but I might be higher at least on the catching side of it. But he's going to be really, really exciting player this year.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Another guy you have ranked high too, and so he's going as RB24 in the same circa fantasy championship drafts. David Montgomery, you have him for 941 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. Jody, is that similar to what you have him for? I mean, those numbers would put him much higher, I think, than RB24 finish. What are you thinking for David Montgomery?
You know, it's looking at the roles from last year, and we're all expecting Detroit to overall be better. I feel like both players that in this backfield that Detroit has in place are upgrades, respectively, over the people that were there last year. And as we know, Jamal Williams led the NFL in rushing scores last year. That's a role that's almost guaranteed to go to David Montgomery there in the short yardage. And you can read my it's free, just released this week, my preseason pro. That's a flagship piece here at Full Time Fantasy. I listed both of these running backs as my was either my sleeper or my breakout, but lots of good data pieces in there for you know, my expectations. I liked it, Shawn, a lot earlier this offseason when we first kind of started playing with our numbers. I think you and I were like on the same page with Gibbs, and now it feels like as we're getting closer to you know, the hibernation for a lot of people ending, everyone else is now shooting Gibbs and now Montgomery more recently up their ADP. So we don't necessarily stand out that much, but you know, keep in mind with Jahmyr Gibbs, this is a guy who you know, Shawn comped to a little bit of Jamal Charles, a little bit of Chris Johnson. That's like breathtakingly awesome comps. You know, he's going to walk into that Swift role right away. And we're talking, you know, the last 3 seasons, we talked this last week, DeAndre Swift was a top 20 fantasy running back and fantasy points per game. I believe Gibbs is a better talent. He's faster. He ran a 99th percentile 40-yard dash. He's a more potent pass catcher. And, you know, the only criticism you might hear for Jahmyr Gibbs is people will say something about his pass protection, but, you know, just laugh that off because Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to be in there pass blocking.
No. No.
Last year, DeAndre Swift ran the second highest route rate for a running back at 87%. I believe Gibbs is probably going to run even more routes than that. So he is a serious contender to lead all running backs in routes run. So ignore anything about pass protection. When he's in there, he's going to be running routes, not pass blocking. Maybe David Montgomery can do that, but I love both Detroit running backs this year. I love Shawn. He's spot on there. I think Montgomery is a great candidate to, approach double-digit touchdowns. Jamal Williams had 17 last year. I believe Montgomery is a better all-around back, and I love targeting both of them.
Yeah, no, I love what you guys both said. I love it all. It all makes sense. Jahmyr Gibbs going as RB9, like you were talking about, Jody. I think a lot of that has to do with Ramondre Stevenson. They're talking about bringing Leonard Fournette in. All these running backs are coming in to visit, so he's dropped down a running back spot. The Josh Jacobs news, the Jonathan Taylor news, all that type of stuff is, the Breece Hall, this Dalvin Cook coming to town. So I think a lot of those third-round running backs that we all loved early on are kind of fading down, and now we're pushing up Jahmyr Gibbs. And no, I'm still okay with it, guys. RB9, I don't even think that's his ceiling. And, don't forget too, like, running backs have some of their best seasons in seasons 1 through 3 of their career. So they want a player like Gibbs. They wanted it to be Swift, and it wasn't, because Swift must have rolled his eyes at the coaches or something, and they didn't like that. Deuce Staley's gone now there. So I'm super high on Gibbs. I like Gibbs. And I like Montgomery for the fact that if one of them gets hurt, the other one, like, I'm not going to say Gibbs is an elite, like, between the tackles runner, but he certainly can run between the tackles at Alabama. So if Gibbs gets hurt, Montgomery to the moon. If Montgomery gets hurt, Gibbs to the moon. Like, I think I'm not saying draft them both on the same team. What I'm saying is I would be targeting them both in certain types of builds. So I like everything you guys just said. Draft, target these backfields.
Gibbs third round. He's like a must pick in the third round. But I expect here in the next 2 or 3 weeks is going to start sneaking into round 2. Unfortunately,
I know that does sting. But he still might end up as, like, right now. So he's going where I said he's the first running back off the board in round 3. So even if he creeps up to the end of round 2, he's still going to probably stay RB9. You're just taking him ahead of, like, DK Metcalf and Kelvin Ridley and Keenan, receivers like that, which I think is obviously fine to do. So, but
wait 1 second. He said, when I did ETN, I took him 128 times, and which was the other running back? It's Gibbs, obviously, but I don't think it's kind of tricky where I don't think I'll have Gibbs nearly as much because the diversity of the first couple of picks, but I mean, I will have Gibbs a lot. I don't know, I'm not slamming them every time because I like Ridley there and some other players in the third round. So it depends on the structure, but he's the guy that's, I'll have a ton of as well in the best ball formats.
Yeah. And I know you're talking about maxing out the underdog and whatever. Like, I know you were doing that. And I think that's an interesting, another conversation is maybe you're not going to do that as much, to go to your point, because right now you got guys like Jonathan Taylor falling into the third round, or Breece Hall falling into the fourth round. Like, well, maybe I'll get some Jonathan Taylor third round shares now before he, comes back to camp, and now he's going back in the second round. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of play these tournaments and stuff, but super interesting. I love the Jahmyr Gibbs stuff. But moving on to the receiving core, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm super excited about it. I haven't really heard anyone say that they're not excited about Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have him for 109 catches, Shawn, 7 touchdowns, which might be a little bit low. I mean, kind of to go back to the Gibbs Montgomery point, last year they had so many rushing touchdowns from the 1 yard line. I almost feel like all the Jamal Williams scores, maybe some of those this year go to Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe not on handoffs, but maybe on passes and stuff like that. So I think he's got a potential for more. He wants to work more downfield this year. They want to get him more involved. So I'm certainly on board with the catches, 1,167 yards, but maybe there's a little more room for growth there at receiving touchdowns. Shawn, where do you have him? Is this a conservative projection you have? Is this kind of the higher end? Where do you see Amon-Ra?
Not just to the pieces of the offense behind him, and he's just such a high volume. He could catch more passes for sure. I mean, the end of his rookie season was really impressive. Like you said, the touchdowns. He's yards per catch. He's been close to the line of 10.1, 11.0. Really only has 1 catch in his career over 40 yards. 11 over 20 the last 2 years. So can he make a few more big plays to get his yards per catch to kind of be more competitive? Like, I think Diggs was pretty on the low end when he first came out, and he kind of had a couple of years where he kind of pushed up higher. So, and not that Goff's the same, like Allen's a little more mobile, can probably get it downfield and stuff like that. But, I think that he's just a really, really good player. He gets drafted as like I said, I always think of him as more as a great wide receiver too, even though he gets to wide receiver 1, but that's drafting 2 receivers right in a row and trying to get him as an edge. So, it's all about the dynamic there. And I think, he fits as an edge, either way, however you draft an AJ Brown and him, or Lamb and him, or, whatever you want to do there at the end of the first round. But I'll have a lot of shares of him as well this year.
Yeah, this is an offense I'm trying to stack for sure. I think 109 catches is probably a full healthy season. I don't think 109 catches probably is floor. But yeah, I'm all in. I'm on Rod. Jody, let's talk Jameson Williams today. The coach comes out and says, "Hey, Jameson Williams has to work on his hands." So, I don't know how. People are talking about he might be this big bust. We'll see. Going to miss the first 6 games of the year. Allow Amon-Ra to get cooking early. Where are you on Jameson Williams? Shawn has him for 42 catches for 657 yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, missing almost half the season.
I'm a little bit lower, but it's a conservative start. I kind of wanted to see that he was up to speed and up in health. And, so far it sounds like it's good to go. But people have to keep in mind with Jameson Williams, we're all kind of, I think, overreacting to that one game when he first debuted, came in, caught that 41-yard touchdown. And then he was, a little quiet after that. But, drafting Jameson Williams, you're understanding that you're going to be missing him for half of the fantasy season. Not only is he missing 6 games, you're going to miss a bye week. So in a regular season of 14 games, that means there's 7 weeks where he's an absolute zero for you. So you got to be cautious with, the amount of draft capital you're going to put on him. But that said, our friend Billy Muzio is big on this plan that you can basically get Marvin Jones with the last pick of your draft. I love that plan. I've done it on underdog several times where I figured, this is a pretty high volume offense overall, top 5. You are pretty much guaranteeing yourself the number 2 receiver all year. So, and it's a fairly easy to do, that handcuff right there. So it's something that, I had already been doing, but like I said, Billy's, real big plan on that. So.
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up. Yeah, I like it. The Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones kind of stack there, and you'll get one of them for sure. So yeah, moving on to the tight end, Shawn, you've got Sam Laporta. So normally and we talked about this earlier on a different pod with a different rookie to tight end, but normally I'm fade rookie tight end guy. But all the buzz out of camp is that Laporta is playing so well, picking up the offense. Their coach is a former tight end. I just think it's weird that they traded a stud tight end, TJ Hawkinson, they traded him away, and then Hawkinson goes crazy in Minnesota. He's still doing so well, young in his prime. And then they draft Sam Laporta, who you hope he's as good as TJ Hawkinson. You have him for 37 catches, 430 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think that's fair. I think that's a nice rookie season for him. But for fantasy, 50 catches from a rookie tight end is like an elite all-time season. It's like a top 10 season for a rookie tight end. So I think you're right on the money. 37 catches for 430 and 3. Do you see some room above that, though? A little bit of growth?
Well, the talk is that he's been looking pretty good, and I could say that I think I've only drafted him once, but I've kind of they had last year the Lions did really well of rotating 3 like 2 or 3 tight ends in there, and they got a lot of touchdowns, and they were in close, play action stuff, and he's going to be in that mix. But I mean, he only scored 4 touchdowns in college. I mean, he got drafted in the 2nd round. Hawkinson and Fant both went to Iowa as well. Yep. They got drafted 8th and 19th in 2019. Both of those players came into the league and they didn't, kind of hit the ground running right away either. I mean, I think Fant is definitely, I don't think Fant's reached where I thought he would be. And Hawkinson kind of did it last year, but he's kind of been, kind of frustrating where you thought he'd be better. But he showed it last year. So, is this player better than either one of those players? I know that Fant had 17 touchdowns and he only had like 30 and 30 something catches in 2 years in college. And Laporta had 53 and 58 and the yards were there. So I think he fits in the offense and it makes sense. Maybe where you're talking about like Marvin Jones or Reynolds is the 3rd option in the pass game, that maybe he jumps up because of the Williams problem. being out for 6 games. So I guess I'm just kind of not confident that he's going to score a ton. There's a couple other guys, and I think one of the Shane guy is banged up, so I have to, probably adjust.
Yeah, Zylstra. I think they cut him, I think maybe yesterday or something.
Yeah, he had some injury, so that might remove one other name from the equation. So a little bit shifted back there. So so he goes up a little bit higher, but he definitely has potential. I think where he goes, the next player drafted after him in the draft was the guy that went to Michael Mayer, is it? Went to the Raiders. So
Notre Dame.
I thought he would have been perfect to go to Kansas City, and then Detroit could have got him, and then he ends up going to the Raiders. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two shake out this year. And I'm higher on Mayer than I am Laporta, but that's just an opinion. They have to do it on the field.
Yeah, it's interesting that they took him higher than a couple of the other tight ends that were expected to go higher. But I'm still on the fade rookie tight end thing. I want to see more. Again, best ball, you take him as your tight end 3, or tight end premium, take him as your tight end 3. Fine if it doesn't work out, but I think your projections are probably spot on because again, it's a rookie tight end. But yeah, so we'll move on to the Packers now. Before we do, just want to let everyone know there's a Las Vegas Circa Championship, not Las Vegas, but online Circa Championship tonight, 11 p.m. There's a couple spots left for that. If anybody wants to jump in, that's the mid stakes event over at the FFWC, 11 p.m. mid stakes. There's a couple spots left in that, so feel free to jump into the lobby and check that out. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love. I was going to say rookie quarterback, not a rookie. He's been sitting around for a couple of years, learning behind Aaron Rodgers. Shawn, are you in or are you out on Jordan Love?
I am out right now, and I know that I think earlier today, I was McCaffrey or whatever, Pat McCaffrey, whatever his name is, it was had the thing, and they were talking about how good he was looking in training camp, and I'm like, well, it still is training camp, and Watson, and I'm kind of fading Watson as well, so I'm kind of the anti, that he's going to step in and be great. I think it's just more of, when he gets his first season, can he finish drives in the red zone? And I know that Rodgers really could extend plays and kind of, Watson, crossing the field, long plays, and be able to hit him late and even eat deep downfield. So I think he'll get enough yards. I'm not sure that his touchdowns will be better than the league average. And the receiving core, has to define itself this year. And I don't think there's really the wide receiver, I can't hang my fantasy season on anybody right now, even Watson, I think I have him projected okay. But he's not high enough for me. So he has to have somebody to throw it to. So I'm kind of where he goes, I probably won't end up with him. And I know that there is people that are kind of trending for and getting excited that he's the next replacement to Favre and Rodgers. So right now I'm on the sidelines on that one.
Yeah, I can't even say that I'm out on it. I mean, he's going QB 20, so it's like, in Superflex, he's certainly worth taking as your QB2. I'm not going to take him as my QB1 in any format. So, I can't say that I'm out on a quarterback when he's QB20. They want to rely on the run game a lot there. They still have Jones and Dillon. So I can't say that I'm in or that I'm out on Jordan Love. He doesn't have a ton of weapons, but, like we said, Jones and Dillon are guys that they're going to rely on there, I think, a lot. Jody, Aaron Jones, I think everyone has him as the number 1 running back in Green Bay. Shawn's got him for 1,025 rushing yards, 44 catches for 327 receiving yards and 4 scores. Is that similar to what you have Jones for?
Well, let's see. I got him for 1,023 rushing yards, 51 catches for 379. And I have, 8 total touchdowns roughly in that neighborhood. So
yeah,
I'm a little cautious on Aaron Jones right now. I think he's fairly priced for where he is. If anything, he might be a little bit of a value because a lot of the running backs that are going, slightly above him are more unproven than he is, where he's been a really consistent. That said, you just spent a few minutes talking about the changes to Green Bay's offense overall with a new quarterback, and that is where a lot of Aaron Jones' value came from as that safety outlet that Aaron Rodgers loved to look to when his undermanned wide receiver core was staffed, he would, get the ball into the hands of Jones, and that's where he was really, really potent as an option. We don't really know if that's going to be the same with Jordan Love. By all accounts, Jordan Love's been in, as Roto World said, complete command of the offense, and he would have led the NFL in quarterback rating last season, top 5 in adjusted completion percentage. There's a lot to like about him, and you can do the comparison with how he, mentored behind Aaron Rodgers, much like Rodgers had to do the same with Favre, blah, blah, blah. Smart coach and Matt LaFleur, he'll find a way to, I think, utilize both of these running backs. If anything, if they scale back the offense slightly or throw less passes to Aaron Jones, that might mean a few more opportunities for A.J. Dillon as the main runner. And certainly he seems like he is now commanding more of the short yardage look. So, with A.J. Dillon going, as low as he's going, a lot of times you can get him in, round 9 or round 10. It feels like the value may lay with him.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think running backs are going to be hard to kind of figure out. I think Jones, if there is some value in Jones, I think I need to start I don't have much Aaron Jones because I just feel like in that range, I'm normally got my running backs or I'm going 0 RB or something where it doesn't fit right with Jones. I'm always picking 2 at the back end, always. So like the only time I would be able to get a chance to get Jones would be at the beginning of the 4th. And I just think with the running backs going there, I think it's too high for me for Jones, but I feel like I do need to get some pieces there. Dillon, I think, is an elite handcuff. I think if Jones goes down, Dillon will be great because they want to rely on the running game. He might be in the next mold of elite handcuffs following the Tony Pollards and Alexander Madisons and stuff like that. So Dillon going lower than he did last year. I think people were too high on him last year, going in like the 6th, 7th round. But this year might be undervalued now, going in like the 9th, 10th, double-digit rounds. But you guys both mentioned Watson. Watson's a good stack with Jordan Love. I think if you're going to stack, we had a question in the chat. Jerry Bryant asks, "Is it a good idea to stack more than 2 in redraft?" And I think it really depends on what team it is, and that type of situation. I think redraft is fine to stack players in. I wouldn't go more than like 3, but I think again, if you get the opportunity to go like a Herbert with 2 of his receivers or a Burrow with his elite receivers,
Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, I'm totally fine with that stack.
That's right. I mean, Herbert's got a lot of options. There's a lot of Lamar. You can get Lamar and then get 2 of his top receiving weapons very easily. Mahomes, you can get Mahomes and like every single receiver on this team for dirt cheap. So yeah, I think it depends on what the teams are. I wouldn't stack more than 2 players from like a lousy offense, but I think that like I wouldn't stack more than 2 players on the Green Bay Packers offense. I think you can go Jordan Love and Watson. I think that's fine, but I don't think you want to do Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, who's a guy that I do want to get to here. But so yeah, I think stacking more than 2 is fine. I think it's less optimal in redraft than it is in best ball. I think best ball you should do it. Redraft you don't have to, but I certainly wouldn't go like 4s, anything like that. But Christian Watson, you guys mentioned earlier, or Shawn, you did. You're not as high on him. I'm kind of high on Watson. He goes around wide receiver 20 in these drafts. I think there's just a lot of data out there about 2nd-year receivers and how and the leaps that they make 2nd-year receivers and 3rd-year receivers. Watson's got this whole receiving core himself, 1st-round receiver, super talented. You have him for 70 catches, 992 yards, and 5 touchdowns, which would not be what we're looking for out of a receiver in the 4th round, really. Is basically this just based on like Jordan Love not taking that leap that you're thinking?
Yeah, I just think he's not going to, not sure that he can make, score as much. I mean, even Watson, he had 7 touchdowns in 4 games. The other games were not so impressive. And he's got, a different quarterback throwing the ball, and can he get more touchdowns? And so, what did Rodgers throw last year? 28, closer to 30, somewhere in that range. So if Love's, throwing 22, so I just, he doesn't, to where he goes, you're betting on the come, where there's other receivers that have some sort of resume that's already, you're taking them in, say, front of Lockett, and I know Lockett's got the extra rookie receiver in there, but there's a lot of receivers that, like Pittsburgh receivers. The target's going to be there for Johnson or something. So I don't know. So I just think that he's like probably 5 or 6 higher spots than I'm willing to push him in. He's in the 5th round. He'd enter in my thought process, but right now in the 4th round and in the high stakes market or even the best balls, he's not in my. I just skip right past him. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, yeah, and listen, I get it. With a lot of these receivers in their rookie years, they have good rookie years, whatever. Like you just have to almost look at the data, like say, okay, listen, it's a year 2 receivers take that next step. So you're either in or you're out. I don't want to say you're blindly doing it, but you just kind of got to factor. I like to factor that type of stuff in. Another receiver that I do like there, I don't really want to spend much time on this receiving core because it's kind of after this, it's kind of blah. But Jaden Reed is a rookie that I really liked coming out. You have him projected for 3 touchdowns here, Shawn, 35 catches and 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. I would like to see him and Romeo Doubs flipped. I think that 57 catches for 600 yards and 4 might be better. So I see him as the wide receiver 2 there. I mean, only 3 catches for Reed. Grant DuBois you have for 2 touchdowns. Can't even say that I know who that is. So I'd like to see one of those or both or all of those go to Jaden Reed or Christian Watson, who you only have projected for 5. But so you guys are the numbers guys. You have 14 touchdowns for the Packers receiving core. I'm assuming that's super low for most receiving. Like, is that one of the lowest that you have projected?
Yeah, that's low. The Colts would definitely be low,
sure.
Which is right. But I think the average quarterback in the NFL might average like 23 or 24 touchdown passes. So and last year I think there was like 15 teams that had less than 20 or less touchdown passes. It was the worst back end of I mentioned earlier. So but I think that as the receivers emerge and quarterbacks get better and players stay healthy, those numbers should naturally go up because the numbers always kind of fit in a similar box. And sometimes there's some rule changes to help some things along the way. But it's just can he get to higher or does Green Bay even do they run the ball well in close? There's a lot of questions there. And like you said, there's no risk at the quarterback, but Watson's getting drafted high in comparison to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I get it. Tight ends here again. You don't have much perspective for them. I don't blame you. Rookie tight end is leading the way here. Luke Musgrave, for 38 catches, 451 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm not even drafting a guy that's going to do that. I don't see much of a ceiling there. Again, not in an elite offense. Doesn't have an elite quarterback. Rookie to tight end. So not much to see here. Jody, anything to add to the Green Bay tight end room?
Tight end, no, I kind of have pretty much a split between Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. I like them both. Long-term holds in Dynasty. They're not much this year. I'm higher overall, obviously on Green Bay than Shawn is. I have their receiving core catching closer to 20 total touchdowns. I have a 19 something. Jaden Reed. Adam, you mentioned him. I kind of love him, man. I've really comped him to Brandon Cooks. I think he's a real tough, smart player, very versatile. He's got slot and perimeter flexibility. Kind of like him overall. And I'm in on Christian Watson. Just saw that potential last year. Fantasy football wide receiver 4 in the second half of the season. I get it. It's not without risk because if Jordan Love does struggle and didn't learn enough from Aaron Rodgers, then it's going to be a long season overall for the Packers. But it's also possible that he ends up actually being really good. And if that ends up being the case, I want some pieces of Watson. Like I said, he's already proven in half a season that he's got that potential upside. But I can certainly see the viability on saying, if you don't believe in Jordan Love, then you should probably be out on all Packers.
Yeah, here's the other last thing I'll say about the Packers and Watson, and then we'll move on to the Vikings. When it comes to receivers, like the fourth, and again, it has nothing to do with the projections at all, but like the fourth or fifth thing you should really care about is the quarterback. You care more about targets, talent, air yards, depth of target, like all that stuff matters more than the actual quarterback, unless the quarterback is absolutely awful. And I don't think Jordan Love will be absolutely awful. So I think that like we might be too worried about Jordan Love. I think Watson will be, especially a guy, most people will have him projected around 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, somewhere in there. Watson can score from anywhere on the field. He might score 3 touchdowns from 40 plus yards. So I think there's obviously different aggressiveness of rankings and projections and conservative. I think that I like being more aggressive on Christian Watson than conservative. That's all I'm going to say. And again, I'm not high on Jordan Love either.
Did you say he's the next Randy Moss? I heard that coming.
That is not what. Even though we are moving
over 40-yard catches.
Well, he is 6'4" and he ran a 4.36. So clearly, that's the call.
Maybe he is. Speaking of Randy Moss, move on to the Minnesota Vikings here. Shawn, every year it seems like Kirk Cousins is a nice value. You have him forecast for 5,000 passing yards and a career high in touchdowns. Talk to me about Kirk Cousins in this offense loaded with weapons.
Yeah, last year he set career highs in completions 424 and pass attempts 643. Just the only thing he really didn't add up is he didn't make as many big plays. I mean, Jefferson was pretty impressive. Thielen was kind of fading, and he got Hawkinson later. Don't throw a ton of balls to the the running back position as far as especially impactful. So I think KJ Osborne showed growth last year. So I think adding Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, I mean, they're going to throw the ball a lot. Their defense really isn't that great. I mean, it's just, Cousins adds up to volume of chances. It's probably the same thing when you're saying it's maybe not so much as the quarterback as the receiving core and the metrics of his chances. So he's a pretty good second quarterback. He gets drafted as like the 13th quarterback this year. And I'm not I got him ranked high on, his volume of chances, but, I'm not going to push him up as the 6th if I get beat at quarterback in the first ones, but I would love to get him as the second quarterback. And if he's sitting around in these drafts, I'm going to take him because he's a good pair with Fields. You got a guy that's, got the running ability and, the passing ability and the play matchups. But the only problem, I think they both have the same bye week, but there's just, certain combinations. It's nice to have a dynamic passing offense and somebody that can run it to help the floor. So, but Cousins, he looks like he has the right tools to push forward.
Yeah, Cousins is going. Where is he going here in these drafts? Richardson, I'm looking, but yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah, going QB 16. He's a nice guy you could pair with, just as you were saying, pair him with Anthony Richardson, pair him with Tua, pair him with Kyler, pair him with like another quarterback with higher upside, Fields, and then have him as a safety net.
How can Richardson be?
Every draft so far, if I get the number 1 or if Jefferson slides to number 2 and that's where I am, automatically my plan then becomes, all right, Cousins is going to be my quarterback. I'm going to stack these 2 guys. And it just makes so much sense. I mean, it's so easy to do because look, you just said QB 16. I mean, that's bonkers. The guy's been he's been a QB1 the last 3 straight seasons. And you look at last year, all of his metrics, top 5 in pass attempts, pass yards, touchdowns, air yards, red zone attempts. This is a, top 5 offense and pace of play. And you just said, Shawn just mentioned, you just added Jordan Addison to this offense. You've got TJ Hawkinson for the whole year. They got rid of Dalvin Cook. So you have to think more reliance on the passing game. Love Kirk Cousins. To me, he's a shoo-in to be a QB1, a top 10 quarterback yet again. And like I said, if I have the fortune of getting Justin Jefferson, then my plan every time has automatically come down to I'm waiting. I'll take Jefferson. I'll take Cousins a couple rounds ahead of his ADP, and I love that stack.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's a safe pick. I think the reason why guys who drafted ahead of him, like Richardson, has a higher ceiling. Tua has a higher ceiling. Guys like that have higher ceilings with the rushing and sorry, go ahead.
How can Tua have a higher ceiling? He's got two receivers.
I think. Well, that's all you need.
Andy doesn't run the ball. He runs the same. Probably runs the same as Cousins. So
no, he definitely runs the same.
I'm a big fade on Tua this year.
But I am too. But what I'm saying is, like, certainly Cousins is safer, but Tua points per game is probably right there with Kirk Cousins. But I'm a fade because I don't think he's going to play the full season. In fact, I think if he gets another concussion, I think he might be done. But I'm just pointing out, like, a lot of drafting doesn't even go based off projections, it's team build and stuff like that. But no, I enjoy both of what you guys are saying about Kirk Cousins for sure. Alexander Mattison is a popular breakout candidate. How do you see this backfield kind of shaking out here, Shawn? I know some people love Madison. Some people are like, he's the biggest, dead zone running back bust there is. Where are you on Madison?
Where he gets drafted, I haven't taken him. I mean, I'm still, until Dalvin Cook signs with a team, he could always backdoor back to Minnesota and it screws the whole thing. So I haven't drafted anybody out of Minnesota. So it's just, there's been times where Madison's had some big games as a replacement, and as a fill-in, and especially last year. But, to trust him for the full season, especially when his yards per carry seem to like they're backing up and he doesn't really not that impressive in the passing game. There's enough negatives there to not invest a 5th round draft pick. I mean, you're drafting him more on a name of him having the job, and realistically, the other 2 guys behind him could get in the way somewhat. So, and then if they do add somebody, it changes the whole dynamic of it. So he falls in the, that fifth round in drafts for me is one of the most challenging drafts, unless you decide to take the value or the second tier quarterback. And I guess in the FFWC, some of the better quarterbacks might even slide to the, the 5th round. I don't know where like a Burrow or something goes, but, I know in that format where there's a double flex that quarterbacks tend to get really pushed back. So there's opportunity there. But Madison, I gotta, if I know that Cook's somewhere and he's got the job, and I'll reevaluate, but I definitely think they mix in 2 running backs there. And I don't think that, I don't think he's going to be, a guy that I want to, place a bet on there.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's coming back. I think that like Madison was talking like, yeah, when Dalvin Cook left, like, I talked to the coaching staff and I knew the job was mine. I think the hate has gone a little too far. I know you're certainly not hating on it, but RB20, I don't think it's terrible. I think he's right in the mix there with all those other guys. I mean, I think, again, whenever he had the opportunity, he was really good for Minnesota. People have analytics and numbers that say, oh, he wasn't as efficient as we think he is, but I think he was fine. So again, there's a lot of Leonard Fournette gets on there. Like that's like the RB dead zone in general scares me. So I don't have Madison, but I think he's fine as RB20. I think if he's the guy there, I think he'll certainly finish better than RB20 in points per game. To your point, Burrow goes in that same round. He's right now, he's going at the 602. So I think he's okay there as RB20, but this is an interesting backfield for sure. I would rather take like a Dwayne McBride at like the end of my draft, thinking that, if Madison gets dinged up, McBride's a burner. He could be the guy. So, but yeah, I think he's fine. And again, they like to throw the ball to the running backs. He can catch. So, I think we're fine there. But listen, what everyone's excited about is this receiving core: Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne. A lot of firepower here. You have Justin Jefferson for 119 catches, 1,657 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Is he your wide receiver 1, Shawn?
He's a wide receiver 1 for sure. I'm a big Chase fan, but, Burrow's a little banged up. But, I mean, those 2 are pretty close. But, Jefferson has done it. The only thing he didn't do last year was get double-digit touchdowns. Everything that was in place. I would think that having, Addison Hockenson allows them to move the ball better and create more scoring chances. And he should push further this year. And he's just kind of like a foundation piece to a fantasy team, and just pretty exciting player.
Jody, I know you love Justin Jefferson, but talk to me about the kind of the Addison versus Osborne deal here. Addison's been pushed up. He's going, higher than I would like to see him go. I'll find the ADP here, but where are you on that? Like, does Osborne have a shot at this wide receiver 2 role? I know Addison was a 1st round pick and he's talented, but he's kind of small. Like, I don't know. I could see Osborne kind of being a thorn in Addison's side. He's going as wide receiver 36 in the middle of the 6th round.
No, I think that they leave KJ Osborne right in the role that he's done just fine in the last couple of seasons. Addison's going to step up with that draft capital. He's going to step right in where Adam Thielen has occupied the last couple of seasons. And last year, Thielen, as we know, ran the 2nd most routes of all wide receivers in football last season, and he had over 100 targets. That's the expectations that I have for Addison. Very versatile, superb route runner. He has inside-outside flexibility, just like Adam Thielen did. It just makes too much sense for me. I don't think they used the draft capital on Addison, to let him be the 3rd guy right away. I kind of like all, obviously of the Vikings receiver. I think KJ Osborne is still a fine, bargain for what it is. I'm on team Addison. I actually have him as a top 30 receiver for the season. And I know, Shawn, you just released something that is you also have Addison as one of your top 5 breakout wideouts this year. That's right.
Yeah. Yep, he is absolutely. He's just he just fits in the right offense. Tons of opportunity. The number 2 against a proven wide receiver. Get a double team a lot. Addison's going to get single coverage. It makes a lot of sense. As long as he doesn't get any more speeding tickets, we should be fine.
Guys, that's really fast. 150 miles an hour is really fast. That's crazy. I don't have much Addison. I got to be honest with you. I think Hawkinson's too good. I think that I understand the role that that Osborne has done for them, but I think Osborne is really, really good in his role. So I don't know. I think the passing yards are fine, but I think that maybe there's a little bit more room for KJ Osborne there. But I do like Addison. I do think he's very talented. I think I did the rookie preview for him for us. But I don't know, rookie. I want to see it first to kind of, because the projections there, Shawn, 77 catches, 970 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I mean, that's like, 5th round, 4th round wide receiver there. But so you must have a lot of that.
That's Christian Watson's number.
That's Christian Watson. That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'd rather have the number 1 than the number 3. I think Hawkinson's too good. Let's move on to Hawkinson. You've got him for 84 catches and 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's wonderful for a tight end. Are you seeing like a career year here for Hawkinson?
Yeah, he just fit last year, and they used him really close to the line of scrimmage. And he might have, you could say that he could work as the dump off that the running backs on some of these teams would get. He just, he's short yards per catch last year for the Vikings. I think he'll make a few more big plays, but he had some really, really impressive games, for the Vikings at times. He probably has a little more competition with Addison there this year, but he's going to be productive and he fits in the offense. There's just going to be so many completions there and so many pass attempts. It's a really good fit. It's just I don't even know if he beats last year, but I mean that's I got him a little bit better than last year. I think he was 201 fantasy points, so he'll get a few more touchdowns and stuff like that. So
it's a good chance that the Vikings have 4 receivers, if you include Hawkinson, that have over 100 targets.
Man, and that all fits into the puzzle. That fits into the projection of the puzzle. 4 guys with over 100 targets.
Yeah, you're looking at West. Dalvin Cook was pretty good as a receiver. He's gone now. I think you're going to see a fewer passes probably thrown to the running backs. I think Minnesota wants to actually, as hard as this is to believe, I actually think they want to press the ball more. They want to actually be faster and more downfield. So there's just not a lot of complementary pieces around her that are going to be heavily involved. I think you're going to see a lot of 3 wide sets and a lot of Hawkinson, and that's just. It's possible. My numbers I don't have it. Like I don't quite have Osborne getting there, but you can see, the path happening to where 4 receivers could get there.
Yeah, no, I get it. I like this offense. This is an offense that I'm buying. I love Hawkinson. I mean, the tight end position is a position where it's a nuanced position, which is why it takes rookies a couple of years to develop. And for him to come over there mid-season and have, a better season than he'd had in Detroit, like they obviously love him. He comes over there and learns the offense like that. Speaking of learning the offense, Kirk Cousins, have you guys been watching the quarterback series on Netflix? Kirk Cousins, the verbiage and that he had to learn with the new coaching staff there in Minnesota last year, that's a learning curve. That's a lot of work this offseason. He knows it now. He's got it down pat. I think you guys nailed it. I might be kind of nickel and diming you here with who's going to get it. Someone's going to get all this work. Obviously, Jefferson is the man, but this is an offense I definitely want to buy. So, and speaking of buying, we got 5 spots left for tonight's Circa Fantasy Championship at 11 p.m. I might just hop in this stinking thing because I just can't help myself drafting. But well done tonight, guys. Got through the NFC North. Next week we're going again, and then the week after that we might be off because I know Jody and I will be in Canton, I think, and that might be 2 weeks from now or something like that. So,
That's 1 week. We'll squeeze one more in before that.
yeah,
but,
we'll squeeze one more in. But well done tonight, man. You guys were on fire with the Vikings, a couple of other teams, and we'll get to it. Any closing remarks, Shawn, Jody, moving into the big draft weekend here?
It's okay to stack more than one Viking this year.
That's right. This is a team. It's okay.
Yeah, for that question, this is an offense where yes,
That's right.
perfectly
That's
fine.
Right. That's right. So definitely look to stack this offense, Jerry. So that'll be good. But that is all for us. I am Adam. Jody is with me. Shawn is with me. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next week.